And welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, J.P. Warren. And before we get kicked off, I got to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specializes in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today.
JP, you're really good at that. It sounds like you've done that a couple times.
I feel like every time I kind of, you want to get closer to the mic and drop your voice just a little bit for that CPC. Find out what CPC can do for you today. It's pretty good.
It's you got some gruffness to it. I like it.
So for those of you that are listening right now or tuning in on YouTube or whatever, we got one of my, I've known this guy for about, 20 years now?
Yeah, man, I think it's actually right at 20 years.
We go back to the A&M study abroad marketing trip days.
Do we whoop on the podcast?
You can do what you want.
Okay, whoop.
Okay, there you
go. We'll go there.
All right, there we go. So Jason Stewart is the Technical Sales Manager, Completion Solutions at Weatherford. Is that right?
Indeed, yeah, that's the title.
And Jason, before we kicked off on our background and kind of what we want to get into, why don't you give us kind of the quick, spiel what you got? How are you where you at today?
How am I where I am at today?
Yes, your background.
So are we talking about jobs? Are we talking about like me personally? What do we even hear about, JP?
You know what? This is an open-ended question. Why don't you just kick us off where we should be kicked off?
So I was conceived in love. No.
Let's go way back.
Yeah. So I grew up in Houston. Originally from a small town in Central Texas, but for the most part, I lived in South Houston. Went to high school in Katy, and then sometime after that, I went to college at A&M. Actually, not sometime, pretty immediately after that.
All right.
And that's where I met you, obviously.
So you were actually on A&M to go marketing degree.
So that's not where I started, man. So I feel like I had a lot of confusion in college. You know, the funny thing is that I feel like I've always been a fairly opinionated person, but somehow, in school, I tried my hand at a number of different things. What can I say? I was, non-committal at that point.
And so you chose marketing?
So I chose marketing. Yeah,
Why?
I chose marketing. Because of a professor.
Dr. Larry Gresham.
Dr. Larry Gresham, indeed.
I think Dr. Larry Gresham is a sign of the times. He's definitely a staple at the Mays Business School in the College Station.
I need to catch up with him. So I went to the Florida game not too long ago, and I should have stopped by his house, so shame on me. But yeah, Dr. Larry Gresham. I did go to Fitzwillies, though. And
that's some good afternoons at Fitzwillies, with you being Dr. Larry Gresham.
Yeah, man, like that was one of the highlights of my college career.
So tell us how you got in the oil field, because I know after college you didn't immediately get in the oil fields, but tell us how you kind of got here eventually.
Yeah, so I graduated from college, and unlike the kids of today, I feel like I was a little bit confused, right? So went to A&M, great education, for those out there that are thinking about sending their kids to A&M, please do. We need good Aggies, but I came out and I was in marketing. I didn't really know what that meant.
Right.
And so the first job that I had an opportunity, that took a risk on me was in the home building industry.
Okay.
And so worked kind of like a sales / marketing role in the home building industry, and as jobs go, like I learned a lot, right? So, but I'll tell you, when I first got into the full-time employment environment, I kind of thought that somehow with my charisma and good looks, I would just be infinitely successful, and people would pick up on
like the movies.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Guy's got it together. He's got 8% body fat. He's got great suits. He's gonna be great.
Somehow I was gonna Barney Stinson my way to the top.
Right.
Yeah, and man, I found out pretty quick that was not going to be the case.
There's a million Barney Stinsons out there.
Well, yeah, absolutely, right. So you're one in a sea of very qualified fish, right?
Right.
And so, anyways, I learned that there was some hard work involved, and so unfortunately I got caught up. I was in home building, did decently well. I don't know that I gave it as much as I should have given it. let's just call a spade in this situation. And so I'll tell you though, like in 2006, my life changed. Actually, sorry, 2005, my life changed, and my son came along. So, anyways, that immediately gave me a purpose and a motivation, a reason to get out of bed in the morning and go and just try and
succeed,
like crush business, be as successful as as I possibly could be, right? So so I moved in 2006 into a role that was very strict sales.
Okay. What do you mean strict sales? Like straight commission, like just sell, like very like Dunder Mifflin style.
Yeah, so we can make it Dunder Mifflin-esque. It was selling copiers and printers. So
and we were actually, fun fact, we were actually in the same building during that time. I was at Noble Drilling down in Sugar Land, and I guess you were a couple floors either below or above, depending if I was in HR at the time or
it was
in
above.
ops.
It was above. But anyways, yeah, I was in the penthouse.
Okay. So you're in the penthouse.
No, just kidding. That wasn't the case. But anyways, I'm selling copiers, right? And so hardcore sales. I'm talking like I'm knocking on doors in the middle of summer in a full suit and tie.
Dude, that's pretty intimidating. I mean, I can only imagine like that straight cold calling sales, like the sales of like how it was back in the day. You know what I mean? Like put the suit and tie on, go knock on the door, make an impression, and try to sell something that they might not know they have a need for, or they might not have a need for.
Absolutely, right? And so anytime for any of those listeners out there that have like never done door-to-door sales, like you know how intimidating it is. I mean, people more often than not want to have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, and the fear of rejection often, I mean, that's a huge demotivator when you're in sales.
Sure. But I mean, it was a great job for me because it gave me the opportunity to grow really thick skin.
Okay.
Right? I very quickly understood, like, no matter what this person says to me or how they treat me, like, it doesn't determine somehow, like, my value in the world. Like,
who you are.
Exactly, right? So, so for me, I learned to take rejection, and I also learned how to differentiate myself in the market quickly, right? Because these folks are getting hit up all the time.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, great job for me. I did it for about 3 years. I like to believe that I had some good success. I certainly had some good leadership in those roles. So yeah.
So you're strengthening your sales skills during this time period, and then you after this company, where'd you go after that? Did you get into oilfield after that?
No, not quite. So immediately after selling copiers, I went into surgical sales.
Okay.
So that was supposed to be the coup de grace of sales jobs, right?
Medical sales in Houston.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm calling in the medical center, I'm talking to doctors, I'm in surgery, telling people how to implant screws. Like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a big ego trip, right?
Yeah.
And so, so I did that for a little while, and quite honestly, like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a ton.
Okay.
I parted ways with the organization, just kind of based on a difference of opinion.
Okay.
But
very political way to put it, but okay.
Hey, it's the best I could do.
That's fine.
On the podcast.
That works here.
Yeah.
This is permanent.
But I mean, again, really enjoyed it. I felt like I was good at it.
Okay.
And it was something I could see myself doing long term.
Okay.
Yeah. But as luck would have it, like, that's not where my sales career kind of like stagnated or ended, right? Like I heard at that point in time about all the magic that was going on in unconventional reservoirs in the U.S. I had the good luck and the good fortune of having a family member that worked for Transocean at the time. So
okay.
I don't know if we even talked about that.
I didn't know that. Who worked at Transocean?
So my aunt Carol.
Yeah.
She worked at Transocean. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What was she doing at Transocean?
So she was consulting for like rig moves across the globe. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in 2011. I'm.
So you're out of college since 2002, 2003.
Yeah. So again, like lots of sales experience, right?
Right.
And great experience.
And different industries too. You're selling a printer that's someone that nobody wants to replace.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
It's a fixed cost, right?
It's a fixed cost, and then you go sell medical, which is a completely different sell. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes to that.
So you're seeing all this stuff with the unconventionals and all that. So okay.
So all of that energy, right? All of that energy around unconventionals and kind of, you know, the story that my aunt was telling me, that is what attracted me to oil and gas.
What kind of stories was she telling you?
I mean, just about, so let's take a step back. So in college,
Yeah.
you and I had a friend that got into oil and gas.
Yeah,
Okay.
petroleum engineer. I think he graduated in 01 or 02. The class was probably very small at the time.
Hey, fighting Texas Italian class of '02. Woo!
That's the second group here around the Rotary. And anyway, so he petroleum engineer.
Yeah, so it's ironic.
He doesn't listen to the show. It's R.J. Moses. He doesn't listen to it anyway. So
you know what? You're probably wrong, man.
Even if he does listen to it, he will never give me the satisfaction that he does listen to it. He's like, oh yeah, I've heard about it, maybe. Around the Rotary? No, it's around the Rotary, dude.
Round, like the circle. Anyways, so you know, we both entered A&M in engineering. Okay, and I'm trying to remember if I've told him the story before, but I hope he remembers. So we both enter into engineering. So that was like one of the stops. And as much as I hate to say it, I washed out of engineering, right?
Right.
But I remember going into it. I was in aerospace and he was in petroleum.
Okay.
Okay? And so we had a conversation. And the conversation was around, like, what will this degree lead to? And as terrible as this sounds, JP, okay, as terrible as it sounds, based on my job and the industry that I'm in now, right, like oil and gas,
right.
I remember telling him in like 1998, it's like, are you really going to go into petroleum? Do you want to spend the rest of your life in some far off but yet dangerous locale, right? Because that's going to be your career. Like, there's not domestic jobs in oil and gas.
But that's how it was back then. I remember when I was going from Connecticut to College Station. I remember filling up my truck, and it was like 87 cents cents per gallon or something like that.
Sure.
So it's like I remember it, but the thing is, though, I didn't know anything about the oil and gas industry when I was at A&M.
Well, and the truth is that I talked like I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything either, right?
Okay.
All I knew was like a very small piece. And so here I am giving advice that's, I mean, really unnecessary. Like, this dude's family grew up in oil and gas. Like, he knew more about it than I probably have learned at this point.
So you kind of leapfrogged when it comes to providing your opinion when no one asks for it based on stuff that you have no idea about. I feel like a lot of people that do that these days. Like, people provide their expert opinions when they don't know anything about certain topics.
I was ahead of the curve, but maybe that's how I got on the podcast.
You're a hipster. That's how you got on the podcast. So anyway.
Yeah, so anyways, we took a step back. We talked about that. So I'm in 2011, and my aunt is discussing everything that's exciting around domestic oil and gas production.
Okay.
And, you know, she told me, she said, Jason, like, they are looking for people that are talented salespeople, but that don't necessarily have an engineering degree or haven't been in oil and gas.
Right.
And so, you know, just kind of off the cuff, I was like, okay, I'll put an application in, and I put an application into this program that has been looked upon at times as like somewhat disparagingly, but I put an application into what was at that point in time called the Sales Academy at Baker Hughes.
So why was that looked at negatively?
Because if you've been in oil and gas for any period of time, like,
right.
you feel like this is an environment where you earn your keep, right?
Okay.
So if you were going to move into a sales role in a major service company, like, the expectation is that you
worked your way up from the field.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that's a deserved expectation, because there's a capability and a competence that you gain by working in the field you can never gain otherwise.
I agree.
So, so I came into the Sales Academy. As luck would have it, though, you know, Baker did a great job of helping to educate these folks and giving them an opportunity to at least grasp some piece of field experience. So I spent some time in the field. I went out. I went through mud school. Went to the Haynesville. I was out on a Chesapeake rig in the Haynesville, and that was my first tower. And man, I learned an awful lot. And one thing I think if you talk to me about my career, one thing you'll learn is that, like, I've made a career just saying yes and then figuring out how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
So whenever I hired on, they told me, Jason, we want you to work in North Dakota.
Right.
At the time, you know, we can take a step back again, but at the time I was a single dad, didn't know how I was going to make that work.
Was your second child here yet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
so this is 2011, 2012, and I just said yes. I was like, hey, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
So,
Have you always had that yes, I'm going to do this mentality, or is that just kind of something that's like, well, I mean, I've tried copiers, I've tried medical, this oil field, I'm just going to say yes now? I mean, or is this something that you've always had?
you know, honestly, I mean, I can tell you it's not something definitively that I've always had.
Okay.
I wish I could tell you that it was. What I can tell you is that I grew up in a family of hardworking folks.
Okay.
Okay, so the folks that raised me, and I say folks that raised me, so a very unconventional family. I was certainly the byproduct of like kind of the village mentality, but everybody felt like, I always felt like these people understood like the value of a dollar and how to go out and earn their keep.
Okay.
And so whenever we talk about that yes mentality, you know, I can tell you that somewhere like deeply etched on the record was the details of saying yes. Like that was there.
Okay.
Okay? But it took having kids, it took like that level of motivation to really bring that out in me.
You had the stockpile of everything. You had the containers of gunpowder. You just needed that spark.
And
Which is your kids.
And sometimes you don't know what you have until you're pushed to the brink, right? So like, I can tell you definitively that in my career there have been a couple times that, you know, God has humbled me.
Okay.
And so, like, I remember in 2008, like, I was relatively successful in copiers, the market crashed, and it's strict commission, and man, I went out and I was slinging drinks at night, right? So, for anybody that's listening...
I remember that.
Yeah, so for anybody that's listening on the podcast, like, when City Center opened, I was slinging drinks at the Asian restaurant Straits for a couple of years, right? So I'm working days and nights.
Fun fact about Straits, it's now International Smoke, which is now closed, that my wife and I had very violent food poisoning at, but I don't blame that on you or the location. I blame that on the management.
I was long gone by then.
You were long gone. So you're working, you're selling copiers, but also you're doing this other job with children at the house.
I was.
So you're busting your ass, pretty much.
It was, I mean, yeah, it was everything that I could do to try and make sure and take care of these kids. And for those that lived through 2008 and were new in their career, I'm sure I'm not alone in that, right? Like, there are a lot of people that...
Well, I mean, people can relate to that today, right now.
Sure.
With everything going on.
Absolutely, right? But I mean, like, from my standpoint, there's always an opportunity, okay? Like, it just depends on how bad you want it. And at that point in time, I wanted it stinking bad.
Okay.
Right? So it was whatever I had to do to take care of my kids.
So let's go to North Dakota, and so you went there.
Yeah, and yeah, again, in my mindset, it's like, look, I've been working 2 or 3 jobs, like, I'll go to North Dakota.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in North Dakota, all right? You're learning. So this is kind of the field experience of the Academy at Baker Hughes, where you're actually in the field learning the roles, learning the rigs, learning everything that goes on from the crown to the ground.
Agreed. So I'm setting a rig as a mud engineer in North Dakota, and at the time in 2011, it was an absolutely like unbelievable opportunity to learn, but then also like a really crazy time in North Dakota.
Okay.
And so
why?
Well, I mean, it's the boom, and it's the Bakken boom, and so like Walmarts can't stay stocked, and there's no housing. Like there's not a single place to live.
So it's pretty much what you hear about Midland about a couple of years ago, where it's like, you know, Walmart, McDonald's is paying $25 an hour or something like that with a $1,000 or $10,000 signing bonus or something like that.
Well, so I was in Midland a couple of years ago, so I had the opportunity to do that one too.
Okay.
But if I had to compare and contrast, like North Dakota did not have the infrastructure that Midland had.
Well, we just did a podcast with Preston Peoples, and he said the exact same thing.
Yeah, so North Dakota in 2011 was absolute insanity. Like, there was no place to live. And so, after spending several weeks up there trying to find a place, I finally found a fifth wheel in the back of this lady's house that was about, let's say, 100 miles away from the primary field as it stood at that point in time. And so I am a single dad, about to move my kids to North Dakota, living in a fifth wheel on the back of this lady's house, no bathroom, okay, small kitchenette that I could cook like some ramen noodles in. In the middle of winter in North Dakota,
it's a balmy 55 degrees.
Negative 30. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So you go to this academy. I mean, it's your next step in your career, which is oil and gas. Now you're getting in now, and you're being sent to North Dakota to sit a rig as a mud engineer. Anytime. So what was your main intention for going to Baker Hughes? Was it getting the oil field, or was it getting the sales in the oil field, or what?
Yeah. So that's a really good question.
Thank you.
Do you hear that a lot?
I always say thank you after I hear that.
That's a good question. So what I'll tell you is that, you know, what I've been passionate about, like even before the oil field, is leadership.
Okay.
I saw an opportunity, and I saw an opportunity in an industry that I felt like was prime for leadership. Okay. I saw an opportunity in an industry that I felt like appealed to me from a technical level. Like there were so many positive things about the oil field before I was in it.
Okay.
That were just really exciting, right? And so, so why would I take a job in North Dakota, you know, over selling titanium screws and surgery?
Yeah.
It's all of that. It's the opportunity, right? It's the opportunity. It's the aspects of the job that appeal to me. Like there's so many things about the oil field that are so unique.
Oh yeah.
You know, and take it from somebody who's sold in a lot of different industries. There's so many things that are so unique that cannot be replicated, right? So if you're passionate about those things, if you're passionate about the opportunity to really partner with customers to sell value based on need, right? If you're passionate about technology, if you're passionate about like a dynamic industry that's innovative, like all of these things fit my personality exceptionally well.
So this is one of those things you're like, you know, I'm gonna stick with this. I will move my children up here. I mean, this I want to stay with the oil and gas industry just because of the opportunity and I guess the culture of the industry.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I think it has a lot to say about the excitement, the energy, and the enthusiasm that you can develop whenever you really embrace what it is we do. Right. Which is, I mean, providing affordable energy, right, to people. Yeah. So, yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I went hook, line, and sinker. I had been a salesperson and thought I'd sell everything under the sun, and you know, I even doubled down and got my master's in energy. Right. So
From where?
From DU. So from the University of Denver.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the University of Colorado, Denver. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I went to the Global Energy Management Program.
Well, slow down. Let's again take it from your turn. Let's back up a little bit. So you're in North Dakota.
Yeah.
All right. So you're sitting on a rig, right? You're the mud engineer on the rig. So how did you eventually transition into sales, and where did you start your first sales role? In the oil field.
Yeah. So I have a fifth wheel on the back of this lady's house.
Yeah.
In North Dakota, and at the time, it's the middle of winter in going from 2011 to 2012, and I am going out on tower, and then I'm coming back, and at the time again I told you I was a single dad, right? So I might have spent a couple days in my fifth wheel, but a lot of times I was flying back to Houston to come check on my kids.
Just for the record, ladies, if you're listening and single, he is still a single dad. So nothing wrong against him, but he just is. Go on.
Okay, so thanks for that. Anyways, so yeah, I'm flying back to see my kids, and on one of those trips, I still remember this day. I'm in the airport. I get a call, and it's this guy that I had been like alerted to that might be my manager at some point. If he's listening, he's retired now, so I think I can share his name. Steve Adams, great guy.
He's a listener.
Sure he is. So he gave me a call and he asked me, he said, "Hey Jason, I know you're up in North Dakota right now. I know eventually the thought process at that point in time was that you're going to sit rigs for a while and then you're going to go and become a field salesperson in North Dakota running rigs." And I was okay with that. I accepted it, right? And he goes, "Hey Jason, we need you in Denver. We've had some attrition. We've had a couple of folks leave, and we would love to have you come and sell to Denver customers.
So how long were you in North Dakota before you got this phone call?
Man, it must have been about 2 months.
Oh, okay,
So it's not very long.
Okay.
So again, I mean, we're talking Haynesville for a couple of towers. We're talking North Dakota. Same story. I mean, a couple of months, and then
you get this call.
I get this call.
Okay.
Yep. And so I land in Denver, March of 2012.
Okay.
Yep. And I mean, beyond going through mud school, I'm about as green as you can get, right? I've only run invert mud, so I mean, realistically, like, I'm dealing with a lot of different water-based jobs. Like, there's a number of different things I don't know, and I mean, I that's one thing I hope that I convey in our conversation is that, like, I've always been very open about things that I don't know, but then I've also been very good at understanding the resources that are available to me and trying to partner with people that I feel like can advance the conversation.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, going from someone, from a situation where you do a couple towers here, a couple towers here. I mean, not much field experience from after the academy, and the fact that you're thrust into this sales position. And you sold before. You sold in 3 other different industries. And I want to touch base on that later. The different how it feels and the transferable skills and all that stuff. But I mean, so you're stepping in this role, yet you kind of have no clue or a very small amount of information on what you have to be doing. How did you learn what you had to do? Was it mentorship? Was it you taking the studying? Was it what was it?
So I would say all of the above, JP. I mean, so number one, like, you have to understand your resources, okay? And if those resources are training, then grab it with both hands and take advantage of it.
Right.
Right? If those resources are other people that are willing to come along and help you, then listen to them and try and understand what they do and how they do it. I mean, so consistently learning from others, right?
So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, like, I have been humbled in the oil field, right? So I mean, I told you, like, God has a way of humbling you. Like, I was humbled once upon a time when I was selling copiers. I was humbled in the oil field, right? I got into it, and I had people tell me, that they realized I didn't know a lot.
I think I literally said that to you about 3 minutes before we started recording this, but go on.
Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, I mean, but that's okay.
No, it's okay not to know something.
I would rather somebody tell me that like they don't believe that I know something than for me to misrepresent myself.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest sin in the oil field, right? Is misrepresenting your capabilities, and that's the one thing I try and pride myself on, is being an individual that's very trustworthy, right? Like, I mean, if I tell you something, you can take it to the bank.
Right.
Like, I feel like there's I don't know, there's a pride in that honesty.
No, I mean, that definitely is true. I mean, I think I've known you throughout the years. I mean, no matter what you say, whether you like it or not, I mean, that's kind of what you're going to deliver on is the truth. Like, I can do this, or I'm not going to make that. Like, whatever it is, I mean, you shoot straight from the hip.
Again, man, that's what
just because I know you. I mean, I have the benefit of knowing you to that extent. So
it is a benefit.
It is a benefit. So you're in Colorado. You just got this sales role. Then what?
Okay, so I'm in Colorado. Let me set the landscape here, okay?
Set the landscape.
I'm in Colorado. It's beautiful. Like, there's snow on the ground. There's a ton of different breweries. Like, nightlife is great.
IPAs are huge.
Amazing.
Right.
I am in one of the easiest to sell, like, most sellable cities, because, like, everybody's in this.
Meets up for coffee.
Yeah, everybody's in this, like, really close environment. And so I embraced it. Like, I fully embraced, like, the entire, like, environment, the culture of the oil field. Like, I was all about being a sponge. How do I learn more? How do I engage with customers more? Yeah, I mean.
So did you? I mean, besides mentorship, did you kind of take some chance? Did you bet on yourself at all when it came to getting in front of customers or connecting with customers at all?
So this is gonna sound unbelievably, I don't want to say crass or like self-involved, but to start out, like, nobody believed I could do anything.
Right.
I hadn't earned it yet.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and so I remember we were we're divvying up accounts and like who's going to call on which customer.
Yeah.
And Steve, God bless him. Like I this guy gave me my shot. Like I would never say a negative word about this guy. But I think he was waiting for me to prove myself.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of like, okay, we've got all these customers that are doing this business. We're gonna give them
to the top performer.
To this other guy.
Yeah.
Also very new, great guy. We're good friends this day. I saw him this weekend. Okay. We're gonna give this customer to this guy, this customer to this guy, this customer to this guy, right? And so yeah, so I basically kind of got the leftovers.
Get the scraps.
But that was okay because again, I got a background in door-to-door sales, and FYI, Denver's not a hard place to go door to door. So I was walking up to office buildings, I'm knocking on doors, I'm asking like who is responsible for this piece of business. I'm I hate to say it, kind of sweet talking like people up at the front. I'm like whatever it took to get an audience.
No, but I mean that's an important point of what we're talking about. I mean, your experience in your previous roles, such as whether it's cold calling or selling medical devices or selling printers, selling homes, I mean, you've kind of sharpened your way on how to do that cold call, to establish those relationships. So you're taking what you've learned in the past and kind of applying that to kind of what your current role was.
Look, I'll never pretend to be an expert at this, JP. What I will tell you is this, is that you have to very quickly find a way to get somebody to advocate for you.
Right.
Okay, so you have to like make that person want to help you.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, that's key number one, right? And then key number two is just don't be scared.
Right.
Like
it's okay. It's okay to hear no.
Yeah, I mean that's actually I encourage it.
You know, right now in this industry that we're in, it's everyone's kind of we're kind of faced. I feel like with the old oil field and the new oil field right now. It's you got the old school way of doing things, the new school way of doing things, and I think right now for people to succeed or even try. I mean, I think right now is the time to push the envelope, to try something new, or to try to get out of your comfort zone and try new things to get in front of people.
Yeah. So old oil field, new oil field. What I'll tell you is that there's benefits to be had from both. Okay, so I think again one thing you'll get from our conversation is like it's never like this or this. It's always this and this.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So there's value on both sides of the equation, and so what our job is leaders in the oil field now, right, is to try and find the value, to try and find the success on both sides, and then to imbibe our people with those skills and those techniques to take to the world, right, to take to their customers. But one thing that is clear also is that the oil field is very dynamic.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so if you think that you're going to continue to do something
the way you were doing it for the past 30 years,
yeah,
it ain't gonna happen.
No, absolutely not. Like you learn, okay, you utilize some of those things, you adapt, and then you overcome.
So you went from a sales, starting off in sales in Denver, Colorado.
Sure.
And then you got moved up to manager.
I moved for manager. One of the hardest decisions I've had to make, actually, professionally.
Well, go on. Talk to me about that. Talk to us about that.
Okay, so spent a lot of time in Denver, and I like to believe well known. I mean, like I had a good customer base.
Right.
I was involved in a couple of great industry groups, Colorado Oil and Gas Association Engine Group. I was on the advisory committee for that.
Okay.
Had gotten my grad degree from University of Colorado, Denver.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I feel like this is the first time you've heard of this. It was on my resume, though.
Well, it's a podcast, so
Okay.
I gotta act like it's the first time.
All
So
right.
congratulations.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I like to believe I had built a reputation and a brand in Colorado. Okay. And I worked for, to this day, one of the greatest mentors that I've ever had. I continue to have.
Okay.
Okay. And I wanted to lead. It was what I was passionate about before I joined the oil field. Like I wanted to lead, and so opportunity presented itself in Midland, arguably like one of the biggest oil field, like one of the biggest basins in the world, right? At that point,
Is this still with Baker?
Still Baker.
Okay.
At that point in time, we're sitting at December of 2016.
Okay.
So
this is right after. No, actually, it's the year after the old OPEC post Friday after Thanksgiving discussions where they flooded the market.
Yeah, so I want to say rig count bottomed in the Permian in June or July of 15, and it was like 130, 140 rigs, something like that,
Okay.
right? And then it started to build up. It hadn't reached 200 rigs at that point. So yeah, December 2016, I start having conversations, both with the individual who was my mentor in Denver, and then with the individuals.
What conversations?
Just that I wanted. That
you want what? You want the leadership role? Want to go?
that I wanted to be the boss in Midland, right?
Okay.
And I mean, JP, like, you don't ever get anything you don't like ask for. So I asked for it. I was like, I want this.
Okay.
And I knew whenever I was asking for it, I'm from Texas. I know what Midland's about. I've been to Midland. But I was so happy in Denver, right?
Oh, it's beautiful up there. I saw your house too. I remember you sent me photos. You were living, a couple miles away from Denver in this beautiful cabin. You got this beautiful backyard, like a commando. Remember he was carrying the log there, and he like looks up the window, hears the chopper coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was beautiful up there.
Hey.
And Midland's beautiful too. Different though, but beautiful.
Yeah. So what I'll tell you is that the Midland's an amazing place for people, right? So if you're in the oil field and you're looking for an opportunity,
and there's one that pops up in Midland
to grow your career, okay? Because I learned more than any other posting that I've ever had. I learned in Midland. Okay. So if you're looking,
why is that?
Because I said yes to something that I was probably ill qualified for, but just decided I was going to do it.
So a lot of people have hesitations on like, oh, there's a job, but it's in Midland.
Yeah, don't do that.
There's this job, it's in Midland.
Don't do that. Like,
just go with it.
Like, yeah. So if my leadership is listening, like, I would go back to Midland, but
and if your leadership's listening, if there's that posting in Hawaii, I guess I'll go.
yeah. If there's some geothermal work in Hawaii, then you can sign me for that too. So again, like, Midland's a great place.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, I never want to like make it sound like it's not. But again, I'm in Denver. I'm a very happy camper in Denver. I have, basically a great house. Kids are happy. I'm doing well professionally.
Yeah.
Like, all of those things are going well, right? But I think this is a topic you've probably covered ad nauseum on this podcast. But if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing.
Okay.
Okay? Is that fair?
I don't like the word nauseum with the podcast, but I understand. I get it. Yeah. If you're not growing, if you're not getting out of your comfort zone, you're right. You're kind of you're stagnating yourself.
Yeah. So I wanted the next thing.
Okay.
I wanted to prove myself, right? So.
Who are you proving yourself to? You?
Yeah, to me, man.
Okay.
Like, again, I'm a single dad, so.
See, I set my standards extremely low for myself.
I doubt that.
That way, every day I can exceed them.
I doubt that.
That way, every day I can exceed them.
No, come on.
That's just my move. That's my trick.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this target for yourself, and you have to. And the only way you can do that is go to Midland and take on this new role.
Yeah, like if you want.
So how much experience did you have in Denver before you took on this managerial role in Midland?
So again, I moved in 17, started in Denver in 12, so we're talking about 5 years.
Okay.
I had at the time I had transitioned a couple of years before that into completions. So I had been in mud for 3 years in Denver, did well. So we talked about it a little bit, but I kind of got the scraps, but made an awful lot of the scraps, right? So the scraps ended up being.
Man, I like the scraps.
Tender morsels for me.
No, I get that. Sometimes people are like, oh great, all these accounts and all stuff like that.
No.
Time out. You have your opportunity to get wedged into these smaller companies and make a huge difference. There's some people that that I've talked to in the past, like, oh well, we're just we have one well here.
Sure.
I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I think that's awesome. I would love to partner with them just because there's more of a relationship. I feel like.
So whenever I left mud, I felt like Michael Jordan going out on top. Okay, so whenever I moved out of the drilling fluids business and I moved into completions, at the time we were in
Well, how did you get the completions manager role if you were never in completions before?
No, so I was in completions in Denver. So again, the guy who has been one of the greatest mentors in my life, okay, moved to completions ahead of me. He was in fluids, saw the talent that I possessed, moved over to completions, brought me to completions. Basically, at that point in time, you're in the midst of kind of a revolution in the completion strategy, right? Because before, from really like 2011, 2012 to 2015, maybe even before 2011, you're in the midst of like the sliding sleeve revolution, right? Which was great for service companies because like sliding sleeve technology was a new technology, right?
Right.
When you talk about downturns, you talk about the way service companies become important to operators, what you're really talking about is how do we present new services or technologies, right, that revolutionize the oil field. If you go back, okay, to the 80s, like there's so many differentiating technologies that came about as a byproduct of the oil downturn.
So that's a great point because you're seeing a lot of that these days. You're seeing a huge shift right now to data, to technology, you're kind of seeing a new focal points, you know what I mean, in the oil and gas industry.
Absolutely. So new buzzword, dark technology, DARQ.
Dark technology?
Dark technology.
Go on.
So distributed ledger, which again, I'm not going to elaborate on these because I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay,
Distributed ledger, artificial intelligence, extended reality, okay, and then quantum computing, right? So basically
equals Skynet.
Yeah, equals Skynet, exactly, right? So moral of the story, though, JP, is that data is more important to operators these days than it ever has been.
Okay.
Okay, and I mean, we could pretend that it was important, really important 20 years ago, but the reality is, like, nowadays, like, people run their businesses based on data. So
that's all you're hearing these days.
So whenever we talk about sales, okay, whenever we talk about the evolution of sales, okay, it's always going to be about people. Like, that's number one, okay? No matter the day, the time, I'm going to continue to tell you the success or failure of a company is about people.
Right, no T1000 is going to come in and sell something.
Not yet, but I don't think ever, because again, people are the quintessential piece that you have to have. But operators are buying data.
Okay.
Okay, so they're buying a way to improve their business, and you have to be able to prove that. And the way you prove that is your data. So, where are we at for that?
I don't know, you had me on the dark data.
Boom.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
You're flipping the script right now.
Hey.
No, so
let me ask you some questions.
No, you can ask me any question you want. I really don't care. I mean, a lot of people have requested for them to do a podcast on me, but we're not here to talk about me, Jason. We're talking about you right now.
Okay.
So you're in this role. You moved to Midland, manager.
So I said yes. So
you said yes.
I just say yes, right?
Right.
That's my guidance. Say yes. Take a challenge. So leaving a very comfortable environment for an uncomfortable environment. And I landed in Midland, and there's sub 200 rigs.
Okay.
And between the time that I landed and the time that I left Midland, it doubled.
Okay.
So, I mean, and everything associated with Midland doubled, right? The population doubled. The
traffic doubled.
Yeah.
Housing market.
Boy, it did it. Yeah, it did too.
The number of shops on the side of the highways doubled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a great time. I mean, I don't want to say I hit it perfectly. I 6 months before, and I would have been like for the entire boom.
Yeah.
But I was there for the boom.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was amazing. I mean, again,
that's a pretty exciting time to see all that.
It was great. It was great. I mean,
why did you want to be a manager or lead a sales team so much? Well, no, the reason why I'm asking this is why, because to me, honestly, to some people, like, again, I'm not saying bad anything about management, but like, it seems like, you know, you're thriving. You know what I mean? You're in Denver thriving, not as a manager. You're making these great connections. You're having great success. You're crushing it. You're doing a great job. And then to suddenly take yourself out of that role into a managerial role where you're kind of removing yourself from the front lines, the customers, to focus on the people. What of drew you in about that?
So all I can tell you is that in my mind's eye, right, I envision myself as this individual that helps others achieve their goal, okay?
You
So,
enjoy helping people.
yeah, I mean, that's why I've been, whatever success I've had in sales, it's a byproduct of that, okay? It's like, I want to understand what's going on with their business. I want to understand how do I help them, okay? I want to be friends with them, but like, so let me say this. You're very talented, JP. I'm gonna give you some credit here, okay? You are exceptionally talented at just finding people, and you never met an enemy, man. Everybody's your friend. You agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So I mean, for me, it's always kind of been. It hasn't been quite as easy as you, but the one thing that I will tell you is
Easy.
yeah.
Well, you don't know my story.
Ooh.
No one's interviewed me.
Ooh.
You don't know my story.
What I'll tell you is that for me, the one thing that I like to do is I like to try and understand before I even talk to somebody. I like to have some ideas around what they might need or how I might be able to help them. Okay? Before I even walk up and shake your hand. And the reason why I think that way is because I believe in the universal law of reciprocation, which is you're going to help me, okay, if I help you first. But I have to find a way to help you first.
Okay.
Like, I can't ask anything of you. I can't be like, hey, JP, how about you give me that work if I haven't already found a way to give you some level of value.
So is this more of a company motivator? Like, look, I'm like, for example, I'm in this sales manager position, and I want these people to perform extremely well for the company. Or is it one of those things where it's kind of the individual approach? It's like, I want these people to perform very well because I want to see them do well.
More the latter.
Okay.
So it's all about the people, right? So
Right.
it's like, how do I help the guys and gals that work for me? How do I help them achieve what they want to achieve?
Okay.
It's the same technique, it's the same mindset with customers as it is with people that work for your company, right? It's how do I help somebody else? Like, they're going to help me, but how do I help them first?
So at the end of the day, the whole, I'm doing this to benefit the company. That kind of takes back burner because if these people do well under me, it's going to help the company regardless.
I think a lot of probably text has been written on this subject, JP. But what I'll tell you, at least for my personal strategy, is this, right? And it mirrors kind of the good to great strategy as well, which is like first who, then what. Okay, so let's get the right people. Okay,
Yeah.
Let's find the right people, and then we'll craft everything else. But we have to have the right people. Okay, so if I have a team of people, which I do currently, right, a great team.
Right.
Okay, when I have a team of people that I firmly believe in, then what I want to do is understand how I help them. Okay, how do I understand their challenges, understand their needs, give them what they need to be successful? How do I remove the barriers and then give them?
How do I establish a relationship?
I mean, it is, but it's earned. Does that make sense?
No.
It's earned because, I'm not just trying to be friends. I'm trying to help them.
So you're talking about sourcing the right people and finding the right individuals for the role. So what are you actually looking for? So when someone applies to your team, are you looking for someone that's coachable, someone that's looking for a mentor, someone that's a hot shot? I'm gonna go do this by myself, and I'm gonna go sell, $10 million here. What kind of person or personality are you looking for? What key characteristics do you find valuable in part of your team?
Okay. So, number one.
It's a great question, JP.
It's a great question, JP.
Thanks,
Woo!
Jason. Go on.
So number one, there are no two successful salespeople that look alike, talk alike, act alike. Everybody's different.
Right.
Okay? And so you have to embrace the diversity.
Right.
Okay? So you have to embrace that, number one, as a leader.
Okay.
Okay? But, as I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, there is one or two capabilities that you have to look for, okay? And it all goes back to, the way that I coach my son when he's playing football, all right? right? It's like, look, man, there's a lot of things that you don't control here, okay? You don't control how big you are, right? You don't control how fast the guy who's lining up across from you is.
Yeah, you control daddy's happiness by being successful in the field.
Don't make me cry. So I told my son, I was like, look, you control effort and attitude. Like, that's it. Like, your coach is going to tell you things to do. You can get pissed off about it, or you can sit there and say, yes, sir, I'm going to do it as best I can, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, those are your controllables.
Effort and attitude.
So whenever we talk about, like at work, in Weatherford, whenever we talk about things outside of our control, we talk about gravity, right? It's a force acting upon you, but you have no control over it. It's always going to be there, okay? So let's just ignore that, okay? Like, maybe not ignore, but let's just understand that it's outside of our control, and let's control the controllables.
Yeah.
All right, and that's effort and attitude. So I had a guy that I used to work for, and he had a really succinct way of putting it to me, and it made a lot of sense. He's like, look, like, we're all after results, right? We're all after results.
Yeah.
And so anytime, like, you have leadership, and you're like, oh, I want these results, like, you have to understand first, before you ever get results, there are strategies and tactics that lead up to results, right? So it's like, if you were working out, and your goal was to be healthy, I mean, you gotta exercise and you gotta eat right.
Right.
Those are your controllables, right? Like,
Right.
You can't just decide, oh, I'm gonna be healthy, right? You have to sit there and go and put the work in every day and exercise, control that, you can do that. And then you have to eat right every day.
Yeah.
You do those two things, this happens, right? If you don't do those two things, it doesn't.
Right.
So, control the controllables. Forget about gravity.
Man, that's a great point. So I guess, I mean, let's get moving on. This is an excellent point about effort and attitude. I mean, there's a lot of people I feel, I was like, oh, this younger generation, they don't know nothing, all this stuff, the millennials. You know what? It's not, to me, a Generation Z, X, Y, millennial stuff. I've had a difficult way to kind of define it. I think the way is kind of what you said. It's someone's effort and attitudes towards taking on a challenge. You know, whether they take the attitude like, oh, it's not my problem, or it's like, screw it, it'll get done later, or whatever. I mean, I think what you just pointed on is actually a great point. It's effort and attitude. And I think there's a lot of great people, whether, I don't care if you're a 6-year-old oilfield sales guy or whether you're getting out of college want to break into it. I mean, it's effort and attitude that go a long way, that can shape someone's career and their path.
Yeah, so again, we'll talk about diversity. There is no gender to success. There's no race to success. There's no religion to success. At the end, there's no orientation to success. Success is success.
Yeah.
You either have the effort and attitude to get it done, or you don't. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, it's completely under your control. And I mean, I say that, like, life throws you lemons all the time, right? But you can accept them.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can do something about them.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like we're getting lemons just thrown at us like it's what the game spread eagle.
well,
like,
I can't allow you, because I know you too well. I can't allow you to sit there and fall into, like, this negative thought process, because
well, you can't be negative, man. I mean, we just talked about it before this. I mean, to me, honestly, you start getting drowned out in all the noise of what's going on in the world today, whether it's the election, whether it's Facebook, whether it's these riots. You honestly, there's enough negativity out there to either fuel you through your day in a negative way, where you come home and you take that out in your relationships, whether it's your family or friends or your work, or you just shut that off. And I told you before we got on the podcast, I'm at the point where ignorance is bliss. Like, I'm done with the news. I'm done with all this shit, you know. So I enjoy. You're right. Can focus on what you can control.
Well, and so another topic, or another, like, way that I categorize this is, like, energy vampires, right? So I've had people that I work with.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've had people outside of the people that I work with. I've had people in my personal life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these people always see the glass is half empty type of mentality.
God, dude, that just drags you down.
But, like, literally, like, I got no time for those people.
It's
okay?
tiring.
Like, I'm not gonna have those people on my team.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have those people in my life. Like, my life is about success and about continuing to strive after goals that I can accomplish. Okay. But I can't do that if I have people that are consistently in my ear telling me about all the things that are wrong.
That everything's flooding, it's over, the sky's falling. You can't have that. And a good way to do that, honestly, and honestly, like with everything going on, I mean, people get upset. It's like, well, you don't follow current events, well, stuff. It's like, no, well, why not? I'm like, because it makes me happy. That's why. And you know what? That's a selfish reason, and that might be an ignorant reason, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Like, there's enough shit going on. I can open up my phone right now, go to Facebook, and find out like 15,000 things that are wrong with this world.
Well, and I'm not going to comment on social media or all those things. I mean, that's
another topic, brother.
As terrible as it sounds, it's kind of a necessary evil in our world a little bit, right? But
if it's used properly.
Hey, but you know what? At the end of the day, like, latch on to things that build you, okay? Like, grasp, hug them with both arms.
Yeah.
Like, latch on to things that build you.
In a good way.
Yeah, and it'll serve you exceptionally well.
In a good way.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So let's kind of get into another subject. I mean, you and I were talking before this, and I think you had a couple good points that I think that are very interesting. I mean, in the oil and gas industry, with everything going on right now, with all the consolidations, with all the whether it's layoffs, mergers, acquisitions, people being let go, new opportunities, people leaving the industry. What do you personally want to see change in our industry?
Yeah. Good question, JP.
Thank you.
Okay. The one thing, JP, that I think we can do a much better job at is like advocacy. Okay? So our industry provides so much value.
Right.
And everybody that's involved in our industry understands that value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, you understand it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I don't understand, I can just log into LinkedIn and see the value we add as an oil and gas industry. You're right.
Yeah, I agree. All of the industry groups that I've been involved in understand the value.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The problem is that when you're outside of the industry, I don't know that everybody else sees the value.
Okay.
And it's not because there's not ample value to be seen.
Well, before you dive into this, you have an excellent point. People are saying that we have to communicate what we do as an industry to the public, to Wall Street, to the press, and that life without oil, you can't get medicines, plastic, this, that. I mean, there's so much. There's so many different derivatives you can get from oil and gas, fossil fuels. But that being said, us shouting that to each other is going to do a poor job of being an advocate for our industry, because we know this. We know what the oil and gas industry provides for the world and our families and friends.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But that being said, how do we be industry advocates without focusing on the facts?
Yeah. So I've played both sides of the coin here, right? So I'm an 18-year-old kid going into Texas A&M, engineering scholarship, and I'm
You want to whoop again?
Whoop!
All
Okay.
right.
So, no idea what oil and gas does, what
Yeah.
it provides, how it helps me.
I had no idea either.
Zero clue.
None.
Okay. The reality is that the industry as a whole, and this is my belief. Okay, again, everything that I've said here
That's your personal beliefs.
is all my personal beliefs.
I get it.
No beliefs of previous employers, current employers, but
I get it.
what I can tell you, all right, from my personal perspective, okay, is that hearts and minds are won by emotional pleas, okay? And so whenever we start talking about how do we build advocacy for the oil and gas business, it has to be on an emotional level with the populace, okay? Like, they have been conditioned to dislike what we do.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
since the 70s, 60s.
It's been a political rallying cry.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all about,
And what's politics? What's politics? Is politics usually facts?
it's whatever it takes to get somebody elected. right?
Politics are usually
Yeah.
based on fear and emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we do has to have an emotional plea, right? Because there's plenty of facts to support what we do. But whenever we get into a factual discussion around really the value of what oil and gas delivers,
It falls on deaf ears.
we get lost.
Well, this is why. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been on this podcast, and honestly, what the message they're saying is very valuable and very true. It's like, us as an industry need to do a better job of communicating X, Y, Z, or doing X, Y, Z. Once a wind turbine actually produces more carbon footprint than that. Again, that's facts.
Sure.
So how do we as an industry discuss kind of the who we are on the emotional side?
Yeah. So great question.
Thank you.
You know, the way that we do that is we demonstrate the value that we deliver to someone, right? So it's like it's all about people. Whenever we start talking about what sells, it's people, right? Whenever we start talking about like how do we build advocacy, it's people, right?
Okay.
So whenever we say how do you build some type of an emotional plea to John Smith, the unknowing individual out there, it has to reach him on an emotional level. Lord knows our competition is reaching him on an emotional level, right? You've got, you know, some program that says that, you know, a family's groundwater has been contaminated
Fracking's bad.
and it's damaged the life of their son or
Yeah.
their daughter, right?
Yeah.
And if you're watching that, you know nothing about oil and gas.
I would hate it. I would hate the oil and gas.
You would sit there and be like, you're killing people.
Yeah, you know you're killing people too.
Right, you're doing it for money.
Yeah, capitalism.
But nobody talks about the millions of lives that are saved as a byproduct of what we do. Not to mention the fact that that's misinformation. Okay,
Yeah.
well, like we can talk about that all day long, right? But anybody who wants to know more about this, like I really recommend The Moral Case of Fossil Fuels. This isn't a plug for that on your podcast.
What is that? A book?
It's a
Another
book.
podcast?
It's a
Okay.
book. Alex Epstein. It's a good discussion around like where does your value system lie? Okay, does your value system lie around having a completely untouched earth? Because if it does, then oil and gas is probably not the way that you're going to think, right? Like,
And you have to deal with people living in poverty and you know famines, and you have to deal with people not being elevated with economical costs of energy.
the truth is that no oil and gas, people touch earth, right? No oil and gas, and people are chopping down wood for some type of energy, right?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, you either have to say completely untouched earth or the value of life of people.
Well, unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, actually, kind of hats off to them, but the renewables industry, I mean, they've done such a good job of promoting themselves as, look, this isn't us versus them. Again, like, this isn't an us versus them argument. You know, we have to do a better job showing that, hey, we're not the bad guys at the party. You know what I mean? We're here to clean up. We're here to bring the punch, to bring the cups, to pick up after. You know, we're making sure nobody's overserved. So it's one of those things too, where it's like, man, it's not like, oh, oil and gas versus renewables. You know, obviously, I think that's a stalled mindset. I mean, yeah, I think renewables are important. I think they're an important part of us. But if you go about this as saying, you know, next year we're going straight renewables or anything like that, that's not being factual. But at the same time, they've done such a good job of appealing to the hearts and minds, the emotional side of things. And we've done such a poor job of that.
Yeah, so
We can't be factual. We have to be emotional.
So another plug to the grad program at University of Colorado Denver, Jim.
What's up, Jim?
What's up, Jim? Moral of the story with that program is that they made you evaluate like all forms of primary energy, okay, and to look at just what our energy infrastructure looks like across really all genres, okay. So in my mind, I work in oil and gas. I love oil and gas. I think that we've got a very proud story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Are you texting during my podcast?
No, I'm actually
Okay.
writing down points.
Okay, just making sure. So we have a very proud story to tell. But if we don't include all of the other primary energy sources into that story, then, I mean, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. Like, the future looks like all of us working together. Okay, the future's in the middle.
Yeah.
And so, like, whenever we get going down a road where it's us versus them, like, we're in the wrong mindset already.
Amen.
Yeah, it's in the middle. That's where the future's at. We have to find a way to work together. And I pray that the oil and gas business and renewables, I mean, we consistently find ways to thrive together.
And it's an emotional, personal appeal. Just like that person, you know, with a child from frack water contaminating whatever.
Sure.
I mean, it's a personal appeal too. I mean, we need to do as an industry rather than do a reactive approach. Is oh, we covered this up, or we handled this situation when it got out of control. We need to go kind of more. You see these commercials like like, oh, we're creating the future of energy, or like, oh, it's like that's more of a corporate message versus an individual energy, oil and gas message to the audience. So it needs to be emotional. It needs to be personal at the same time.
You've got a great message to sell, JP. I mean, literally, like, oil and gas is a phenomenal message. Okay, like, so when I was doing my grad program, we went to Europe, we went to London, we also went to DC. I can tell you that of all the groups that I visited with, nuclear groups, renewable groups, Department of Energy, like the one group that like cherished safety, cherished like doing things the right way more than any other group is API.
Yeah.
Okay, like literally whenever you talk about what we do more to try and manage our footprint than any other business out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we just are not communicating on our emotional level.
We're horrible at it.
So when you talk to me about like what needs to change is advocacy. How do we build fans? How do we build people to be on our side?
And I'll tell you what, one thing a lot of people are getting, I feel like are getting it wrong. And there's been studies about this, and there's been reports and studies, cognitive reports and all that stuff. Like, one thing is this: you can't sit there and say the other side is wrong. You know what I mean? You can't sit there on the sidelines like, oh, you think you're right about Tesla? You're wrong.
You also can't be quiet.
You can't be, you can't be quiet too, but you can't do it in an attacking mode.
Yeah. So another great mentor of mine, we're talking about customer engagement, and this individual, he was like, look, if you just allow nothing to be said, then like in a vacuum, the worst starts to present itself. I hate to say it, human nature. Like you just start to believe the worst. Okay, if I never respond to you, you ask me a question, and I might have your very best interest at heart and be like proceeding down a path to deliver exactly what you want. But if I tell you nothing,
I don't think you're doing anything for me.
You don't automatically think that I'm doing everything that I can for you. In fact, you think the opposite.
Yeah, I think you're trying to squeeze me out, hide me from what's going on.
Correct. And so in a vacuum, people start to think the worst. So communication is super important, all right? And whenever it comes to talking to the public, we have to be out in front of the situation, building advocacy, communicating on an emotional level.
Part of that is listening.
Okay.
No,
I totally agree.
No, look, I'm kind of going off right now on
communication.
a little soapbox. It's communication. I
Yeah.
mean, you're right. I mean, look, a lot of people lately are getting, obviously right now we're in election year and all that stuff, but I mean, we're getting fired up. People are getting fired up right now. People are so quick to shout out, no, this is right, let me shove this in your face, or no, you're wrong, this is why you're wrong. You don't win anyone over that way. If anything, you push them in their camps more.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
I don't think right now is the time to attack's the wrong word, but I feel like everything's so energized. I don't feel like right now is the time to speak down or to yell our position in people that either probably don't even know what's going on in the gas industry. They're getting their information from the news, or this whatever. I think now is not the time to if someone is oh, let's just go to renewables and overnight. I think now is the time to, instead of being like, well, oil and gas supports my family, and put it up there, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. I think now is the time to say, okay, well, let's talk about this. Like, I think it's more of a conversation to be had versus putting your foot in the ground, digging your heels in the sand, and being argumentative, if that makes sense.
So I feel like we're going to repeat a lot of the same topics in a different way. Okay? So totally agree with you. Okay? The world has become highly politicized. The world has become completely divided.
Right.
Okay? Again, one man's perspective. All right? But what I can tell you is that whenever we start talking about like sales and engagement with people, okay, nobody ever comes to your way of thinking by you forcing it upon them.
No.
Okay? It never happens. All right? So the way people come to your way of thinking is first believing or understanding, not even believing, but understanding they've been heard, right? So I'm going to give a plug to another group that I listen to, Black Swan Group for Negotiations. They have their own consultancy, but they put out a pretty regular newsletter, and the guy who started it, I want to say he was the lead negotiator for the FBI, and like his position is always, like, if you're negotiating with somebody, the first thing you do is hear them. Like, you acknowledge everything that's real to them.
That's such a skip step though these days.
But nobody wants to do it, right? Because everybody's got their own perspective. They want to tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the deal. If anyone fires back at you with anything that goes against your camp, it's automatically shoot that out of the sky, fire back at why they're wrong. It's not listening.
Sure.
You need to have these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge weakness, and I think it's a weakness that's indicative, I hate to say it, of our society. I don't know if it's just Western society. I don't know if it exists like everywhere, but like people want to inflict their own opinion on everybody else.
Yeah, like everyone gives a shit.
The reality is everybody's got their own opinion.
Everyone's got their own opinion. Your
Yeah.
your favorite color is different than my favorite color.
Always will be.
Yeah.
Always will be. So listen, like, hear where they're coming from. Understand why they believe the way that they believe. Okay? Acknowledge their beliefs. Right?
Yeah. It's one of those things you can actually think about. It's like, why do I care so much what this person's doing? I don't. So I'm gonna sit here and just listen. You know, like just.
Yeah, but I do care, and what I'll tell you is this: like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, that's one of the things that I'll tell you right now that I've come to realize about myself is that there's a very genuine curiosity around why people do what they do, like
Right.
why people believe the way that they believe, and I feel like that is like a huge piece of whatever success that I've developed. That's a huge piece of why I've been successful, is because I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know why they think the way they think. And I mean, at times in sales, I truly believe you have to challenge the way people think. I think if you're just like a yes man that sits there and says, "Oh no, your beliefs are perfect, you're absolutely right," then you'll never see success. But at the same time, you have to understand why. You have to listen.
Yeah.
And then once you have an understanding of why they believe the way they believe, then you can respectfully challenge it.
Yeah.
So,
real quick, Jason, wrapping up. I mean, we're coming on about an hour and 15 minutes of this podcast, which is great.
I
Which
feel
I
like
love.
we could do this for hours, buddy.
Honest, we probably could. I don't think they want to hear it. So, you and I, we met in 2000, actually 2000, right?
2001.
2001.
Yeah, it was
So
summer,
Jason and I
summer
met.
2001.
Jason and I met on a marketing study trip abroad. Right, there was a group of about 60,
Yeah.
70 people,
Indeed. Yeah.
and we went. We toured several, countries at Texas A&M.
We spent 2 months abroad, like just touring around different places.
Pretty much was a pub crawl, but they sold it on the market.
Hey man, we studied too.
So explain to me the first time we met, if you don't mind.
Man, you want my version of this?
Why not?
All right. So, JP, if those of you that know JP, he's a 6'5", larger than life character, right? Larger than life, right? So, go on this marketing study abroad, recently moved from engineering, really don't know anybody whatsoever, okay? So JP's on this boat, and
God.
so JP, I'm not even going to say what he was like, the groups that he was involved with at A&M, but JP's on this boat, and
I was in the Corps Cadets. What's your problem with that, bud?
there's nothing wrong with that.
Protecting your freedom.
Hey man, I have nothing but the utmost respect for the
All
Corps
right,
Cadets.
go on.
But JP wanted to lead the entire group of Aggies in a yell practice on a boat in the Thames River in
How
London.
many times do you get to do a yell practice in the
0.
Thames River?
No, actually, like, mad respect.
Never.
Mad respect for you.
Never.
Mad respect for you. No doubt. No doubt. Mad respect.
You never get to do that.
But I was kind of like, wow, this guy's exceptionally brave. Like really, really brave.
So Jason and I got many stories from our studying abroad time. So we went there in that one year, right?
Mhm.
That was 2000, 2001. Then you and I went TAs on the next year.
So JP and I were kind of instant friends. Is that a fair
That's a very fair statement.
I mean, literally, like, I pass you on the way to the bar, and
Waxy O'Connor's.
Waxy O'Connor's been there since, by the way.
In London.
Yes.
You were there when you were getting your
Masters.
Yeah,
the last time I was there, but it was still there, still great. And yeah, I mean, passing each other, like cheersing each other. Yeah, instant friends. So afterwards, again, great individual mentor to us both, Dr. Larry Gresham.
Dr. Larry Gresham.
He ended up taking us both under his wing.
Yeah.
And we both had the opportunity to serve as teaching assistants the following year. But interesting, it's like a juxtaposition of environments, like friendly to Americans, unfriendly to Americans. Do you remember that?
No, because I feel like I'm pretty Euro. What do you mean? What do you mean?
That's fair. So, I mean, we went summer 2001, right? So September 11th, 2001, obviously we had the Twin Towers fall.
That didn't happen yet.
It hadn't happened the first time we went.
That's right.
And so whenever we went, like, I felt like the entire...
Like, oh, you're Americans, come here, let me kiss you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But whenever we went back as teaching assistants, the environment was not as friendly. Which is crazy, because it's like, this event happened to us.
Well, then again, listening, they also saw the whole, right after that, I actually studied abroad in England.
Sure.
My flight was on September 22nd.
Yep.
In 2001.
I mean, I remember whenever you went back over there.
Dude, there was like 4 people on the flight. Like, I had a full row. I'm like, this is great. You know what I mean? But like, no, then after that, I remember being over in England, and I think that's when we had sent troops over to Afghanistan.
Sure.
So to a lot of people, it's a very unjustified war, whatever you want to call it. So
right.
I'm sure that's where maybe the second round. Well, I didn't even notice that. I think I was just having a good time the whole way through. I didn't even notice that.
Man, I just know that like it was a blessing that I kept some students out of jail, because I mean there was we were about to go fisticuffs.
Oh really?
Yeah, in the middle of, man, I don't even want to name the country, because I'm not going to do that. But
the country, the
I'm not
country really listens.
I'm not going to insult the country.
Yeah,
okay?
they're a huge list. There's the number 2 listeners out there.
Hey man, but yeah, there was a lot of like.
I feel like I'd be bad at fisticuffs. I've never been in a fight before. I know you scrabbled before. I feel like I'd be horrible. I feel like I'd be an emotional fighter. Like I'd cry, like a huge snot bubble pop. I'd be like, oh man, you called me a loser there. I'm crying because you called me a loser.
JP, you're 6'5", dude.
Like, it doesn't matter.
You got reach on everybody.
I fight it with my mind.
You fight it with your mind.
Not my heart.
All right, fair enough.
So anyway, Jason, you got anything else to bring up right now?
Hey, I just want to thank you. I want to thank Capital
thank
Petroleum Consultants for allowing me.
Why are you trying to plug the #1 well supervisor project engineering company out there today?
Hey,
you don't have to do that. I just did that at the beginning of the show.
At the end of the day, JP, I'm appreciative of what you guys do. Want to say very many thanks to Weatherford for allowing me to do this with you.
I'm glad you came on, man.
Great company. I've been really excited. Great team. Excited about what's to come with this company. So, with that said, man, thank you.
What message do you have out there to the audience?
Hey, kids. For those of you listening in, say yes. Just say yes.
To the career opportunities.
There are a lot of people that are looking right now, right? So it's like, look, take a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the
bet
day,
on yourself.
Yeah, you're gonna do fine. Whenever your back's pushed against the wall, okay, we're resilient. We're resilient people, man. So be brave. Try something new. Fail fast. If it's gonna be a failure, fail fast.
And learn something. And
learn something from it, because it's not a failure at all, is it?
That's right. That's a good point. Everyone, again, this is Jason Stewart, the Technical Sales Manager, Completion Solutions at Weatherford. And if you got any questions for him, you can find him on LinkedIn, or you can email me at roundtherotary@cap-petro.com. Again, it's roundtherotary@cap-petro.com. And Jason, I appreciate you coming in, bud.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me again.
Always enjoyed talking to you, and thanks for not spilling any dark secret beans that we might have had in, not you and me, but our party times in Europe. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, all right, I'll edit that out. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.